Have you ever thought to yourself, wow, I'm just not good at the details, or I'm great at the details, but I don't like it. I don't like administrative work, and I'm really more of what I would consider myself a high-level leader, that I have a lot of vision and a lot of places I'd like to go, but the details just drain me. If that's you, then this podcast today is for you. So today's interview is with one of our clients, Jessica Pittman. I'll let her tell you all about what she does and why she started working with us. She started working with us about 9 months ago, and I'm excited to share her story with you. Jessica, thanks for being here with me. I would love for you to give us a quick introduction of who you are, what you do, who you work with.
Sure. So I am the community schools coordinator for Aspen Public Schools. And so I work with 3 charter schools here in Fresno, and we have 2 elementaries and 1 junior high school. And so we're just starting a 5-year plan to really engage with our community, to look at our strengths and needs of schools and build out partnerships as well as programs, and really, I would say, a whole transformational experience for our schools to be the best schools we possibly can be, to improve student outcomes and the lives of all the families connected to our schools and in our community. So that is my role.
Awesome. What is the unique sort of value that Aspen brings to the community? What would you say that is?
Yeah, so our mission is to transform our community by developing exceptional leaders. So, with charter schools especially, there's like a specific focus. So ours has definitely always been on changing our community for the better, improving the lives of our families, and really equipping people, I would say of all ages, but of course, young people, to be the best they can be, and to look at the community through a lens where we all collaborate together and make it a better place. And so the history of our school is also really fascinating. So it actually started around 2004 with some faith-based community leaders who saw a whole bunch of kids who weren't going to school, and they started tutoring them just like throughout the day, and really just as volunteers, and just saw that need and met it. And eventually we're told, hey, you need to start a charter school if you're going to do this with these kids. And so that's what started our school. And so even to this day, we have a huge population of unhoused students. We're about 22%. And so we serve a very vulnerable population, but also so many strengths and gifts within this population. So I would say those are a few things that really stand out about our schools. And so from the beginning, we've always networked with a lot of community partners, and really always had the lens of community schools, but now we're getting some government funding to do it and to sort of reassess. Yeah, to reassess, and to say, okay, so a lot has changed since 2004, right? And then launched 2 other schools. And so just really taking stock of where we're at now, and how can we, in some ways, I would say, return to that focus. Definitely, as with many, COVID has shifted a lot of things, and a lot has changed for young people. So making sure we're really centering student voice is a huge thing we're also focusing on, I would say.
Okay, cool. Well, that sounds awesome, especially it's very hard to serve an unhoused population. I know there's a ton of really unique challenges with that. Maybe it could be a lot of unexplained absences or different things that just cause disruption to that flow of education. So it's awesome we have people doing that, because I'm in Fresno. So it's awesome that we have people doing that in our community as a part of what they're doing.
Yeah, and we're really uniquely positioned for this type of focus, as well as our junior high and high school is at the city center. And so we're really new over there. I mean, our school will only have their first senior class next year, but we're really excited about what that can mean as we build out some of these partnerships with some of the city center leaders and community members. And so there's lots of possibilities, which is exciting. Yeah. So.
And the city center is a really unique situation in Fresno that's kind of becoming a model for other areas where a lot of different community resources organizations are being pulled together in one location that's centralized to the needs of the city. And so someone could go there for shop for their own free groceries They could go there and get services for all different kinds of issues they might be facing, but also they're pulling in other organizations or business leaders or government organizations to come in and help with different pieces of the puzzle. And so instead of shuttling someone across town to 10 different offices to address a bunch of different issues, you have sort of under one roof a lot of ways to address a lot of the issues that someone may face. So that's a really unique, cool place. So if you haven't heard about it, City Center Fresno is a great place just to look and check out and see what's happening. What prompted, or how did you and I start connecting? What prompted that connection?
Well, I believe it's actually through a mutual friend of ours, Krista, who leads Central Valley Justice Coalition, which I, with a team of leaders, began like a while back. And so I don't remember how exactly it came up, but I knew she had a remote assistant. And so at some point I was like, yeah, I need some help, I think, but I wasn't right. I didn't have like a budget really, or even like, I don't know, it didn't really occur to me that I would like hire an assistant at this point because the role is not that built out yet, or at that time it wasn't. And so she just shared with me about how it was working for her and introduced us, I think, that way. So yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. She's been a great resource, and we've had a great connection there with her. And it's really cool that you helped found that organization. You were the founder or co-founder?
Yeah, I mean, people say I'm the founder, but I always say
Okay.
it was like a team of us. So, but
Yeah.
I think as far as like start to finish, I kind of carried that through, you know. But yeah.
And then she came in. I think she was a volunteer at first, and then
Yes.
kind of grew into loving the organization, and eventually took over the executive director role.
Yeah, I do give myself credit for hiring her though. I do.
There you go.
So
There you
yeah, no,
go.
she came to us as a volunteer. We're like, oh, we have to hire this woman. And at a certain point I was like, yeah, she's gonna lead it at some point. And so it's awesome to see her in that role now.
So, what were some of the things that you were sort of feeling overwhelmed with that made you think it would be great if I had an assistant?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of hate admin work. So, and I will say, I love Aspen, but there are definitely, it's a school, there's a lot of systems in place. And coming from a smaller nonprofit, I didn't have to go through some of these steps. And then also, as thankfully we I started taking on additional projects. It was like, oh, I really need to attract some more budgets, and I need to like just do a lot of things that like I personally don't enjoy doing, but also I'm not super like detail oriented person, and I'm more the visionary type. So I was like, man, I missed having someone in that role at my last job where I'd have that. But I just was like, yeah, there's no funding for that. So yeah, it was just like, oh, if there's a way I could delegate out this, that's kind of one of my spiritual gifts, Micah, is delegating. And so I was like, I don't have anyone really to delegate to right now. Like I just didn't have staff in that role, even though I was managing tons of other people. But it's like if I did, I could free myself up to like pursue some more important things that I'm better at. So just knowing my skill set and my gifts, and also knowing how much I do want to enjoy my job. I don't want to be sitting by spreadsheets, and that's just
Yeah.
I want.
What's really shocking, I think, to people is like there are people who love being background support. They just love that stuff, and they would hate, like loathe being what you love to do and be, which is really beautiful, because imagine if we were all one thing, that would just be awful for everybody. Nobody would ever want to do anything.
Yeah. Well, like, and I think back to when I was a pastor back in the day too, it was like similar. And like, I think there's like, once I realized also you all are local, like, I feel like that was a huge job for me, knowing like, you have a vision for the community beyond just like, okay, we just want to like provide a service and make money. But like as a pastor in that too, like, I think a lot of, whether it's pastor or nonprofit leaders, like are in kind of like a space where they're like any job, you have to do things you don't love to do, but at a certain point it's like so much more efficient for everybody if you just like have a handful of things that you give to someone who's like actually good in those areas, instead of like focusing on kind of the things that you're not excellent at.
So as I totally get that, as a former pastor
Hmm.
as well. I totally understand that. In fact, I've told people, like, if I would have had, when we planted a church, because we planted a
Hmm.
church, if I would have had someone handling like a lot of this administrative stuff from the get go, just on a very fractional
Hmm.
base, um,
Hmm.
I could have got a lot further faster on the other side of things, on the vision and
Yes.
relationships and community building and all the other things. But instead, I was often stuck trying to manage the administrative stuff
Hmm.
to my
Hmm.
detriment.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I
Yeah,
totally get that.
for sure.
What's maybe one of the or a couple of the great things that your EA has done for you so far?
Yeah. I mean, you want specific details on that? Like,
I mean,
because
whatever you feel comfortable sharing, whatever
yeah.
you.
Well, actually, to be honest, the first thing that comes to mind, and I really appreciate this. I really, I'm working on my Spanish skills, but we serve a highly like Spanish speaking population. I'm definitely not qualified to like translate documents, and so I really, really appreciate you all making that effort when I realized, hey, that's like actually probably above and beyond, I would imagine that you guys did that, and so it's been really helpful having her and she's great about doing it with not a ton of notice. I really love that because sometimes I almost like it's bad, but like I almost forget. Oh yeah, not every single thing has to be bilingual, but a lot of stuff does, and so that's been a huge support. And I've had her even in a couple of meetings to be available for translation online. So that's been huge. We haven't done a ton of that, but that was really awesome to have her in that space. And then honestly, a lot of the stuff that she does, I feel like it is kind of just like I would say for me, some boring stuff. Like, but she's submitting my mileage. She's tracking a couple of budgets, just like expenses because our accounting doesn't do all that for me. And then, there's a few things she's done, like some really great, like just some research on and organizing on. So, like, if there's certain things that I'm like, hey, like this team of um, this advisory council is interested in like exploring this idea. Can you do some research? So some of that research has really helped because, and even sometimes it's not like, oh, this has to be done. If I had some extra time for her, it was really great that I was like, hey,
Right.
actually, can I have my assistant explore that a little bit and report back to me on it? And so it just depends on the ebb and flow, but sometimes I feel like just a little above and beyond what I would have had time or energy for has
Good.
been really helpful to ask her to work on kind of as she can. And so she's put
Yeah.
together some lists of like education for families that's been helpful and just aligned some community resources for events and stuff like that. So yeah, those are a few things.
Cool. And what's something that's interesting too is sometimes clients will have their assistants do research or put together a proposal for something. Research this and give me the best options for,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah,
sort of thing,
yeah,
which really cuts down on what the client specifically has to do, and they can
mm-hmm.
make decisions faster because of that. Um,
Yeah,
Sometimes it'll be like you said, sometimes it's like not absolutely necessary, but if I have a little extra time or
mm-hmm.
availability for her to do things, it's kind of like one of those back burner things that just sits in the back of your brain. It takes up brain space. Like I should really explore this, but I don't have time to do it.
Yeah,
Sometimes there are those types of things. And then there are times when it's like they've done the research, they've made a recommendation, or they've compiled the information, and the client actually goes, "Thank you for doing that. I actually don't need that now,
yeah,
but it no longer lives in my head. So it was actually helpful
yeah,
to me because now
yeah.
it's out, it's done with, and if I need to refer to it, it's there. And we may not ever do anything with it, but at least we've got that done with. I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah, and I mean that just happened for me. I think this week because like months ago I had to put together some things, and then I didn't think I would need it for a while, but then all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, I need it, and so I pulled it up and it was there and it was ready, so it was great. One last thing that comes to mind, and I honestly didn't realize how much of this I would have to do, but I have like I don't know, somewhere around 5 to 6 different like teams of people, and just updating their contacts sometimes
Mm.
is like so much effort. And people are in and out of these groups, not like you're in here for life kind of thing. So even just that alone was getting to be really time consuming. So
Yeah.
that was the other thing that I was like, I don't need to be spending a lot of time on this. And also I'm losing the details because there's too many of them. So that's been helpful.
What are the primary ways in which you work together? Like technology wise, what are you utilizing, programs, anything like that?
Yeah, now we're using Trello as much as we can, even though I don't honestly feel like it's like always the best fit. But we use
Fair
Trello, we
enough.
use Google Chat, and not much more than that at this point. We've talked about a couple other ideas, but yeah, those are the two main ones right now. I mean, clearly sometimes some texting and emailing, of course, and all that. But yeah,
Yeah.
those are the only other two really right now.
Okay. Cool. What were there any like hurdles or anything you had to overcome in starting to work with her or anything you had to figure out?
Well, I mean, at first, I do think a lot of our communication was happening on email or chat, and I think it was getting overwhelming for, or one document that we kind of kept updating, but I was like, I can't just live on one document. It's like a lot. And I didn't want to, I know what it's like to get like, I mean, when I think of something, I just send it. So I know it's like to try to sort through also and stuff like that when you're only very limited hours. So I think it's helped having more like a board of projects. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't always happen, but we try to use that as our primary our primary thing. I think probably the fact that I'm using the free version isn't helping anyone, um, but yeah, so like having like more project boards, I think made an important shift. I'm just not great at going through like one long Google Doc over and over again. That's why I was like, you can keep this, but walk me through it. So yeah, that would be probably another shift is I don't I know some weeks we have to kind of reschedule stuff, but for my style, it's more helpful for me to just have her walk through
Uh-huh.
stuff over either on the phone or online. So
Yeah.
it's easier for me to do that than to dig through all the different
Right.
communications, electronic communications. So
Yeah.
doing
Makes
that
sense.
has helped when we need to, most of the weeks. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, I have two assistants that serve me. We use Slack. So like you use
Hmm.
GChat, use Slack.
Yeah.
Um, you know, obviously emails there, but I try to limit the
Yeah.
emails.
Yeah.
So many other kinds of things that you utilize email as a primary thing. And so
Hmm.
normally emails are just like me forwarding things. Like,
Exactly.
and then they know
Yeah.
what to do with it because they know what kind of email it is. So just forward,
Yeah.
forward. And then um and then we have a weekly video call that we do on
Hmm.
Mondays. And I seriously I get it like as a leader. I apologized to my assistants on Monday. I was like, I'm so sorry. For some reason, sometimes when I'm about to get on this call, I get the craziest brain fog I've ever had. And I don't know what it is, but
That's
like as
funny.
soon as I'm about, and so that's why when I get on, I start asking you, what do you need? And
Yeah.
what questions do you have for me?
Yep.
Because I sometimes I'm just trying to do my things and I've delegated things and I forget what you have
Hmm.
on your plate. And so if you need something from me to complete that, ask away. And so
Yeah.
walking through that, and they own a document that kind of, has all the things in it, and we have Asana that we utilize and things, but which is like Trello. So um, I totally get it, and that I rely on them to kind of help lead me through that meeting a lot of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. It is nice because I mean there's definitely certain times where I'm like, hey, I have like a bunch of stuff I need to walk you through. But I mean I almost feel like I lead like 90% of the meetings that I'm in. And so it is nice to be like, can you just tell me what you want me to do for you to finish these tasks I gave you? So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, cool. What would you say if someone was to, like you were talking to Krista, I'm kind of
Hmm.
overwhelmed. If you got that from somebody else, what would your advice be to them?
Yeah, well, I mean, I literally just told someone like yesterday about you guys, honestly, and I was like, "Hey, like this has worked really well for me. My friend has started her own business and just like a lot of like on the side of like some billing and admin work, I just shared, the best thing is you can do it like at a minimal level if you're just starting something up.
Right.
And for some, like for many, I'm sure they grow that or it's full time. But for me, like it's just been really helpful to have a handful of hours that like I can literally just almost anything on the administrative side I can, ask her to do. For sure, like there's like anyone you have to like learn the gifts and strengths of your assistant. And so we
Sure.
talked a little bit about that. I just said, what I really love is that you all are in the community and you care at some level. Of course, I believe that about the vision of what we're all doing, and that's what I know from the beginning. And so it's really great to know that there is, even though it's a very like, we're all in our own spaces, but we're all like in the same community working towards a lot of the same vision. So that to me is like very, I wouldn't have like necessarily prioritized that for a remote assistant, but the fact that that's there is so great. And then you all have been great about checking in on how things are going as well. So there's just really like natural flow of all of it. So I just said, it'll free your brain space up and it's worth the investment. And cost wise is very effective, I think, as well. I had done the math at a certain point, like, hey, am I going to save money if I did this instead? And I was like, no, this is like very cost effective and it just makes sense. So I just totally recommended she call you guys.
That's awesome. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. Maybe that's how we primarily grow,
Yeah.
and primarily get to serve more people is through somebody saying, "Hey, it's worked for me. Why don't you give it a shot?"
Hmm.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, I just really appreciate you, taking some moments here today just to talk to me about your experience, and we want to continue to serve you and Aspen, and see our community changed. And what's really interesting is, you mentioned about me being in the community and things like that. Our assistants are all over the place, and our clients are all over the place. And
Yeah.
so yours comes from like Nevada,
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
and so it's cool to have people in other places get excited about another local place and be investing in some way. We have
Mm-hmm.
people who are serving organizations and leaders in Philadelphia, inner city Philadelphia, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, Phoenix. It's just they're all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think we all just have a greater vision for what could and should be for humanity
Mm.
and society.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of drives a lot of the passion I think behind people. And it's weird to be excited about administrative work, but I think if you know what it's supporting, it
Mhm.
makes a big difference.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because my passion and like vision has always been super global, and so it hasn't come up a ton in this role, but a few times I know my assistant's like, oh my gosh, it'd be cool if I could come to the opening of your community garden or something like that, where I'm like, oh my gosh, she totally like connects with the work at some level. And that is really exciting. And I feel like, yeah, the more we can learn from each other in our different spaces, the better,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
have that integration. Yeah.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening or watching. Hopefully, you come back next week for another episode. God bless.